Hi, it's Megan Zuba, Director of Youth and Young Adult Ministries at First United Methodist Church in Madison, Wisconsin. Welcome to the question and answer session. This topic of this week is about making mistakes. Something very familiar to me, and I would expect that you have some experience with making mistakes too. So, it's a beautiful day out, and together let's just explore a little bit the beauty as well of making mistakes, how we can maybe feel a little bit better about them, and where we think God is in all of it. So, jumping right into the first question, here we go. I feel so flawed and weak. I'm always making mistakes. How can I feel better about my faulty tendencies? In response to that question, my first thought is, congratulations, you are human. We are living in a world in which mistakes are going to be made inevitably. So the question here, though, is how do we feel better about it? How do we get past this down sort of a feeling that just disheartens us and that makes us feel just perpetually weak and not good enough? Honestly, you've probably heard this before. It doesn't matter whether or not you fall, but whether or not you get back up when you fall. Right? So yeah, it's about our comebacks, our just rebounds, getting back up when things go wrong in our lives, and just being confident that it's gonna be okay. There's a verse from the Bible where talking about God, God's power. God's power is made perfect in weakness. This is just mind-blowing to me, this verse that is saying to us that through our mistakes, our weaknesses, our faulty tendencies, God's power can be shown so perfectly and beautifully that we really don't have to worry, that God's gonna make things okay. God's gonna just going to adjust the circumstances and the situation to be in our favor. Another verse from scriptures that comes from Romans 8:28 is, all things work for the good for those who love God. Do you believe in that? Do you believe that literally everything's gonna work out okay because we are in this loving relationship with God? And no matter how much you actually think you love God, God loves you so infinitely that this applies to everyone, no matter what. All things work for the good for those who love God. So let's take some assurance in that as well. And so far what we have, the fact that we're human, that all of us make these kinds of mistakes, so we're not alone, and that God has our back. God is bringing so much power and beauty and goodness through our mistakes. What else can we think of? I mean, just the fact that we're getting up after we fall and that we're trying to live our lives says a lot about our greatness, our boldness. So just keep trying and try not to be so down about the past. Don't get stuck in a rut of what happened before. Keep living in the present and keep having hope that really what matters is how you feel now, and just take that with you into life and have joy. Keep practicing is what I want to say, and don't fret too much. Everything's going to be all right. Just keep trying and keep turning to the Lord. I'm going to move on to the next question, which is also related to God. The question is, what do you think God thinks of my mistakes? Well, we already talked a little bit about how God brings good out of mistakes, so God knows we're going to make them, and God also just literally makes the best out of them. But another thing that I wanted to share at this point was the story of Peter, the apostle to Jesus, fisherman who was somewhat impulsive and unstable a bit, just kind of confused in ways, challenged Jesus, lost his faith, denied Jesus a few times. I mean, this guy was not the cookie cutter kind of perfect individual that you might think Jesus would prefer. No, but Peter was who Jesus preferred, because Peter was human and he tried really hard to just live his life to the best of his ability, and it wasn't always immaculate. It wasn't always completely how Jesus wanted it to be at the time, but Jesus allowed Peter to learn and to grow, to get to know God more, to get to fall more deeply in love with God and who God is, in order to just shape the way that Peter was, and so that Peter could then be formed into this great saint. I mean, Peter became the rock. Jesus named Peter the rock of the church, who is super steady, stable, strong. And none of this would have happened if Peter hadn't been trying so hard to live and making mistakes along the way. So just be bold in your life. Try your best. What God thinks of your mistakes is just that I believe God is there experiencing them with you, and God is never leaving you alone. So God is just working with you to bring so much amazing grace and learning opportunities to you. There's so much more to this, and I just think that everything is just full of love and opportunity and grace. So there's no need to worry. Of course, we're all going to make that mistake and keep worrying. I know I will. That happens, but that's okay. Just keep getting up after we fall. Live in the present moment. Trust in God. God has our best intentions in mind, of course, and is just loving us so much through every experience that we have, and is loving us not with judgment, not with a harsh kind of judging type of demeanor, but rather with just a smile, a joyful embrace. So hopefully we can take it to heart, and not get bogged down by the realities of the world. Lift it all up to God and keep trying to love and live the best you can. I'll see you next week. Send in your questions, and God bless you. See you later.